Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member
say
Thune,
that again.
thank you so much.
So you call me Mr. Chairman. What you usually call me is not repeatable.
Are you going to take that off my 3 minutes? The first thing I want to say is thank you. Our producers in North Dakota, and I know South Dakota because we hear from those folks just over the border, and we know that this continues to be a problem in Montana as well, Minnesota as well. Our producers are in dire straits. I talked to a Minnesota farmer yesterday who told me that his basis adjustment on his corn brings him down to $2.25 a bushel. His cost of production is $4. And half of that, or at least a dollar plus of that, is because of transportation. And so we have a very real impact in North Dakota. I was with 6 shippers just standing around talking, and those 6 agricultural entrepreneurs, those farmers, I will tell you, told me that collectively they have suffered a $500,000 loss to their bottom line because they haven't been able to move crops timely. So this isn't just about who gets preference and having your feelings hurt. This is about the very real economic consequences of what's happening in farm country in our state and across the northern tier, across the board. And so we need to somehow achieve some kind of balance. I will tell you, I think our producers have been tremendously patient about what they're willing to kind of understand given the tremendous infrastructure demands in North Dakota, but that patience is wearing thin. And so one of the problems that we've had is getting accurate information on exactly where we are in terms of the 2013 crop, what's going to happen with 2014, and how much it's cost our producers. But beyond that, the one thing that I will tell you I am most concerned about is that we will be back here in another year having the exact same discussion, only we'll have 3 years of crop that will be either on the ground or in bins in my state, with producers struggling to try and figure out how they're going to get the money to put in next year's crop. This isn't make-believe. This is real, and it's a very real problem. And so I want to applaud you for the work that you all are doing here. But one thing that I do want to say is that from this process, engaging the STB as we have, I think we've come to learn that the STB does not have very many tools really at its disposal for addressing shipping delays. And I'm glad that your reauthorization bill allows for STB to initially instigate an investigation without a complaint or without, a lot of senators saying we need attention to this problem. But I believe the STB could use more authority and use more power to resolve the issues beyond demanding reports and more data. Obviously, we want to know exactly where we're at, and we're very appreciative, especially for the resources Burlington Northern has brought to this crisis and this problem. Burlington Northern, I think, in many ways gets it, that this is a permanent problem. We're going to continue to ship crude by rail. We're going to continue to see bumper crops and increased yields in our state, which is going to put more stress on track time. I believe that we need to have the same kind of reaction and the same kind of response in terms of dollars, as Senator Hoeven has said, and where those dollars are going to be deployed from CP if we're truly going to resolve this for all of the ag producers in my state. So I want to thank you again for your attention to this issue. It's critical. It's comes at a very timely time when we're entering that 2014 harvest. And I'd be glad to answer any questions about what we see in North Dakota.
With your permission, this is a John Thune masterpiece, and it shows
Grain on the ground.
Yeah, not even in the bag.
That's wheat, yep.
wheat. Okay, we don't have a lot of that in West Virginia.
On the ground.
This is the pile of wheat, and this was a couple of this is now. But I had one of John's staff people draw in where it probably is now. In other words, it's here, but actually it's up to here. And it was probably higher before that. And you can't see the building where it's meant to be stored or anything. And it's just symbolic of the kinds of things that happen in a small estate when you depend on certain things, and then, the STB isn't there for you.
Mr. Chairman, if I can add to that, we're looking at wheat there, but soybeans denigrate very quickly, and we've got to get them to market. And so as dire as that is, as that pile of wheat is, if those were soybeans, basically what you've done is you've condemned that crop. And so understanding that we go into freeze with that pile, that has huge economic consequences to those producers.
You've both been excellent, and I totally,
Could I, while we still have him here, just quickly direct a question to him? Generally, I know you both have had, you had an SDB hearing, as you mentioned, last week in North Dakota, been tracking this issue very carefully for a long time. And the question really has to do with whether you believe action would have been taken as quickly this year by the railroads to address this crisis had it not been for members of Congress and the STB working to you know, help address and deal with those service challenges. And I ask that question because one of the things that we hear is that, you know, the industry is making investment, which they are, but I find it hard to believe that we would have seen the kind of action that we needed to see taken had it not been for the agency and for the attention, obviously, that Congress has paid to this issue.
We've been pretty aggressive on this issue, and BNSF has responded, and they have given us a very detailed plan. Their managing director, Matt Rose, has been up to our state on multiple occasions and has been, even back in February, when we were working on catching up on moving fertilizer, they changed their hauling system. They assigned unit trains to move fertilizer and so forth. They came forward with a detailed resource plan. They started reporting their delinquencies on the website. They've reduced their delinquencies to about 1,000 cars right now, about 10 days past due. So they have responded. They have been proactive. That's the concern. And of course, they need to continue to do more, so we're continuing to work with them. But on the CP side, we're not seeing that. Their reporting up until recently is not transparent. We can't tell what their delinquencies are. Now they're reporting about a 7,500 car delinquency, but an average of 13 weeks, so we still can't decipher exactly what that means. They're changing their ordering system. Some of our shippers are worried that they're getting orders canceled. They've talked about a $150 million resource plan this year to catch up, but we don't have the detail or the timelines on that. So what we're saying is, you know, we need, not only do we need to continue to be proactive until we get that, but so does STB. And that's why what you're doing here is on the mark, is to make sure that we're able to take, all of us, including STB, a proactive stance if somebody is not responding proactively to solve what's been a problem, an ongoing problem for a period of time. We get that if the problem just happened, somebody has to react. This has been going on long enough now that that reaction should be in place already.
If I can just add a couple comments to that. I think it's a matter of whether the railroad believes this is permanent, whether this is a one-time glitch in the system or whether we're going to have a need for a permanent increased build-out. And I happen to believe we need a permanent increased build-out. Given the history of siting pipelines in this country, we're going to continue to move oil on the rails. Your committees have already discussed the safety issues, but we're at 1.1 million barrels a day, pretty much in North Dakota. We think that's going to grow another 20, 30%. Where's that oil going to move? It's going to move on the tracks. It's going to move in pipelines, but it's also still going to move on the tracks. And so we need to accommodate all the captive shippers. And I believe that without the attention of the congressional delegations in the northern tier, without the focus of the STB, at least as it relates to one railroad, we would not be as far as what we are. But I will tell you that the big concern that I have is that still what we're hearing is they don't get that this is a permanent problem and needs huge amounts of capital infusion in order to solve it.
I thank you. They will claim that they don't have the money, and John Thune and I will jump up and down vigorously and protest if they do. Thank you both for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You made excellent presentations,
Thanks to the committee.
as we all knew you would.